You know, I love my off-brands. The saviors of the divorcee dad who forgot to get their kid a birthday present, so they stopped at Walgreens on the way home and they got themselves a mutant fighting turtle. Or they got themselves a transforming robot instead of a transformer. Now, this is just rampant everywhere. Whenever I was a young lad, I could go to the local Blockbuster when the Blockbusters came out, and I would see the off-brand movies, the mockbusters, if you will. So instead of Transformers, I had Transmorphers. It's the equivalent of the sci-fi Sharknado style movie these days, but it got the job done. Now, today we're going to be talking about a game that is almost an off-brand of something else. Off-brand is treated a little bit differently in the board gaming universe. I can't make an Aliens game, so I'll make a Nemesis game. I can't make a Jurassic Park game, so I'll make a Dinosaur Island game. I can't make a Blood Bowl game, so I'll make a Battle Ball game. Today we're going to be talking about a game that missed that by about 2 years. This isn't necessarily a rip-off of anything or anything like that. This is instead a game that when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a really good idea. But when you start to play it, you're like, wait a minute. In 2020, this seems really familiar. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about one of the greatest shows of all time, Bob's Burgers, and its board game, Bob's... Nope. Just Burger Joint. Burger Joint by Joe Huber is a game for you and one other person to move cubes around a couple of boards to make burgers and pizzas. Yes, that is right. This is essentially any episode of Bob's Burgers where on one side you have Bob, mustache, wonderful, beautiful family. And on the other side you have Jimmy Pesto and his dumbass Italian food, and they're bickering and they're bickering and they're bickering. How did that rivalry get started and where can it go from there? That is a question that Burger Joint will sort of kind of answer. Even though this game came out 2 years before Bob's Burgers aired, 2020 makes this look like a Bob's Burgers game. And I think if they were to retheme this and change a couple of things, it might be a big hit. So what are you doing? On your turn, it's very simple. You are gonna do Billy's favorite thing on the goddamn planet. Draw some shit from a bag. We are getting ahead of ourselves. Before you start pulling shit from the bag, you need to decide who's gonna be your pizza guy and who's gonna be your Bob's Burgers. So these are the boards that you are going to get. One is burger, one is pizza. That's how it works, but they are functionally identical. There's no special powers or variables or anything like that. The only thing that is different is up here at the top. The cubes that are required to build things are different. So here we have a very simple idea. I need these 2 cubes to build these shacks. Then I'm gonna upgrade these shacks and I need these cubes to build diners. And then I'm gonna upgrade these diners and I need these cubes to build bistros. So the building bistros is the same. However, it's a little bit of a variable on the building these stuff side for a very good reason. So they're not necessarily going after the same cubes for the same reason, but you are gonna want some of those cubes that the other person has for good reason. No. So now you are ready to draw said cubes from a bag. The way you are gonna do that is gonna reach in the bag and draw. But how many you draw is dependent on a couple of things. Now, Bob's Burgers Joint is the most complicated, simple game, or the most simple, complicated game, I haven't quite figured out which, that I have played in a long time. Mainly, it's very simple. You're gonna draw X number of cubes from the bag, and you're gonna place them here. Oh look, they're being unloaded off the truck. And look, there's a little guy taking them to the side. This side is the burger side, this side is the pizza side. So on your turn, you're gonna put the cubes on the board, and depending on which diners you have built, it will give you priority of selection. For example, we have these diners here, they all have different colors on them. So if I have a little doodle thingy right there, I have priority on what I assume is mustard. Which means after we draw the stuff from the bag, we separate who has priority, and you cannot take your first ingredient from the other person's priority. You take it from the center where no one or both have priority, or you take it from your own side. It's simple as that. You go back and forth drawing till they're all done. Some restrictions may apply. Let's talk about those complicated restrictions for a second. Okay, so complicated restrictions. Here we go. Every one of the diners and every one of the bistros has this little icon right now. And that is how many cubes you draw per player, per round, and put in the center. Now, this is also how many that player can take. So for example, if I have all of these spaces filled up, I get to take a maximum of 4 per person. So So I take my 4 and I take the other 4 and I spread them out and I spread them on this board, and then we get to drawing, and at the end of your turn, you can only take over 7 ingredients from one round to the next. And so that is your production. Production is putting ingredients on the board based on who has priority, and the priority can change because there's no difference in these boards, so everybody could have all of these, and it's kind of clunky in how to do that. And then however many you draw. So if I have 3 bistros or whatever, you're drawing 3 for me and only 2 for the other, that means I get 3 and you get 2. This game has a bit of a runaway leader problem. So now that we've done our production, we can actually start to build our shit. We build our shit by simply discarding some of these things and putting a token, one sec, yeah, on the board. So I pay this, and let's say I'll put that there. Easy peasy, George and Wheezy. But then later, if I spin these get moved over in any place you want, and then they get moved over, and we have special abilities over here. So to build a shack from scratch, the token comes from the box. In order to build a diner or a bistro, they have to come from the other row. And if you'll notice on all of these things, there are little victory points, because at the end of every round, you recalibrate your victory points, which are monitored down here at the bottom with a picture frame kind of thing. Let me show you. Like that, like a picture frame thing. I think it's supposed to be one of those things you put in front of a restaurant to show the daily specials, but yeah, that's what it is. And so you're calibrating. Also, there are special abilities that I mentioned. One second. And these special abilities are actually done before you build. You can do these, but you can only do it once per round. There's also a universal ability where I can trade any 3 of the same color for 1 color out of the bag, which is nice. And so here we go. These are worth a lot more points. The one that's worth the most points has no power, and the one that's worth the fewest points has the strongest power. So down here at the bottom, just real quick, this symbol means any color you want. That's the bag. That means you can take any color you want from the bag. Put any color you want, take any color you want. Draw a random one. The gray is a random one. 2 of any color to get what you want. Throw one in the bag, draw another one, and then nothing. The brown is probably poop. And that's it. The game goes on until someone is the winner, and the winner is a person who has 12 points. Oh wait, there's one other thing. So remember when I said that there is a little variability between the cubes that are taken? I do like that the pizza colors are basically your Italian colors, and the burger colors is basically whatever black is. I'm assuming that's meat maybe, and then mustard, which is cool. But what you can also do instead of building some shit on your turn is to publicize. Get some publicity. Make some TV commercials. Bash the competition, a la Jimmy Pesto and Bob's Burgers, as they did in that episode where the football guy was like, oh, Bob's Burgers. Roll the clip.
We only use the freshest ingredients, and we grind our meat right here.
That's a 10-yard penalty for unnecessary deliciousness.
Like that. So what you're doing is whenever you decide, you will actually use the cubes of the opponent's colors as a bit of a fuck you, and then, boop, pop your little TV right there, and that is 0 points at first. But the more you use it, it goes all the way up to 4 points, which will probably never happen because the game will end a bit quicker than that. Now, what's really cool about this as well is not only do you get to do this, but you also get to steal an ingredient from the opponent's side of the board, which is okay. And then you can also do it subsequent times, but if you do it more than one turn, you have to either choose to go down, giggity, or steal. You can't do them both. But the first time you do it every round, you can. And it's just kind of a little fun, talking shit about them, building your own shit to upgrade your shit to build some bistros. Now, Bob's Burgers is probably going to be right. You have a bistro and Jimmy Pesto has a bistro, and you're just arguing across the street, and they're always wanting to open up another one, maybe when they did the food truck or something like that. This game is, like I mentioned, basically Bob's Burgers, and if it was, I would love it a lot. But let's talk about some issues with the game. So, let's talk about pace. A game can kind of live and die by the pace that it sets. You have your early game in which you're just kind of gathering resources, and then you have your mid game in which all the main action happens, and then the end game where the victory is had, and usually you want those to kind of roller coaster. You want those to kind of be even. You don't want to spend too long in the early game because you don't feel like you're going to accomplish anything. You don't want to spend too long in the end game because then it is the game that never ends. But you also don't want to spend too long in the mid-game because that is where most of your experiences and most of your memories from the game are going to come from. And if you are stuck in this long mid-game of just churning through mud, not really knowing where you're going or if you're ever going to get there, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. And with a game that is invoking the pizzas and the burgers, the last thing you want is a bad taste in your mouth.
And this game is all mid-game. The whole thing. After the first turn, you're in the mid-game. And before the last turn, you're in the mid-game.
And that's not all. A bit of a problem with the game, even though I do love the graphic design for the most part, and I am a big fan of this weird art. I feel like there could have been more stuff happening in the background here. It's got that Uwe Rosenberg, Agricola kind of shit in the background going on. Who made this? Rio Grande? Yeah, cool. Whenever your board starts getting loaded up, it's not a problem with these, the shacks. It's not a problem. It's not even a problem with the bistros because it's not going to cover any vital information. And whenever you use an ability, you can put it over there if you want to, but it's not a big deal. The problem comes whenever the turn begins with trying to figure out who has priority for ingredients. And your big, beautiful token is covering the diner. So you'll maybe have to move it to the side instead of just putting it in the center. And then trying to calculate, oh, do you have priority? Do I have priority? For every single thing that comes out of the bag slows this game down to a halt. Now there are exactly 3 things I would do to fix this game. Let's go over them right after we do some housekeeping. It is for 2 players. There's not a way you could play anymore. 2 is fine. Ages 10 and up, okay, who the fuck cares? And 30 minutes. I played this with the wife outside. It was a nice, beautiful day here in Texas. It wasn't a billion degrees because it had just got finished raining, so it wasn't too bad of a boil. But this game did not take 30 minutes. This game did not take 45 minutes. This game took, oh look, there they are. There's Bob and Jimmy Pesto in their first little shack right across the street from each other. Nothing changes. This game took about an hour and 15 minutes to complete. And the problem was, all right, Ted, talk about the 3 things I changed. Let's go to the 3 things I would change. Let's go! Thing number 1 is I would, first and foremost, spend the money, get the Bob's Burgers theme, because it just fits so well. In my head, that's what I was doing. It doesn't have to be a Bob's Burgers game, but I feel like it should and could be a Bob's Burgers game. Rio Grande, sell this to Cryptozoic. They'll fucking make anything. I think that this would be an excellent update for a Bob's Burgers game, and there's 2 other things other than changing the theme that we would make it work with. Thing number 2. The rules say that I go, you go, I go, you go. This game will screech because essentially you're getting 2 turns to get your ingredients and your items and 1 turn to spend them. So I get the idea behind that. I feel like things should be simultaneous. I feel like one person, sure, can draw from the bag and get first pick every turn. That's fine. But I feel like after you do the production back and forth, everyone should be allowed to use special abilities and everyone should be allowed to build. Then at the end of the round, everyone should be able to move their shit up. And I mentioned there is a bit of a leader problem where I got the lead maybe 5 minutes in and I held the lead the entire time and it didn't really feel like a way to get back because there is a way to mitigate the cube pull, which I would definitely keep, but I just feel like, I feel like there's a way to get around that, and that would primarily come with solving problem number 3. And number 3, I would make it a card game, or at least add cards to it. I feel like that if you gave me these little boards here and we had more variation in the pizza burger dynamic, I think a small card game, even if we had to get rid of the cubes, would function better. So we draw cards and those are our ingredients. We could even draft them from the middle of the table. 2-player drafting games are few and far between and they could really work if they put the effort in. So we have the draw here. I take an ingredient, I pass it to you, you take an ingredient, and then we get to build. Because I think the problem is this board is a bit too cluttered, and if we were to spread it out a little bit, I know you want a small footprint, but if you want to spread it out a little bit with a small deck of cards, we can show, hey, I have this, I have this, I have this, and I can show how many of these I have, how many of these I have the diners built in different colors, and I just boop, pop the color right there, boop, pop the color right there, and that would also allow me to build multiple of the same diner, where let's say I do really want to keep this priority over mustard, then hey, I'm gonna grab a yellow diner and I'm gonna have 2 yellow diners. And that would be able to look at the table at a glance and go, okay, 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 instead of trying to figure out, hey, what's your token on? You got them peppers, you got them sauce, you got them whatever the white and the brown is, I don't know what it is, and then ketchup. So even sacrificing the shit from a bag that I do love to pull, I think if you made this a Bob's Burgers card game and adjusted some of the rules as such, I think you might have a dynamite game on your hand. However, this game does come from a simpler time. It doesn't take up a lot of room, but it takes up a lot of time when it shouldn't. Even with people who aren't very AP, I feel like there's a great game, and I've said this about so many games that I've gotten rid of, is that there's a great game in this box somewhere, but the game that came in the box, hey Bruce Buffer, do the thing. Fine! Burger Joint is fine. It's not great. I am very happy that I played it because I just saw this and I'm like, oh, this could be so much greater than it actually is. Wasted potential, but not really, because I did enjoy my time with it. However, Burger Joint, until you get re-implemented, you are in the same bag as Barker's Row, in a game that in the box, it was 1 or 2 steps away from greatness. And you are, as I mentioned, 3 steps away from greatness. Give me a Bob's Burgers card game with some more variability, simultaneous play, and maybe a little bit of 2-player drafting, and I would keep you. But as it stands, Burger Joint, you are out of my hard 100. You are a lot of fun to play, but I can't fall in love with you for what you are if I can't appreciate you for what you are not. And I just cannot do that. I'm not even sure if that sentence made syntax. Instead of sense. I'm hilarious. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this, the latest edition of the Hard 100. I hope you and yours are well. Wash your goddamn hands. Wear your goddamn mask. Go vote. Thank you so much. Peace out. Already did the snap. Shit.